Are you ready for the main event of Showtime at the Ohio? Welcome back to Roya Rockwood at the 2016 Republican National Convention. Day 4, my goodness, I can't believe we finally made it. The main event. And what a main event it was. Let's get started. Now, throughout the entire week, I've actually been complaining about the cover band. Yeah, the small, minuscule group of like 4 or 5 people that were just playing a whole bunch of different songs from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. More or less the 50s, 60s, and 70s, really. Not really the 80s. But if I had to say, they've kind of improved over the week. I kind of wanted to make an ongoing gag in which I would always snitch and moan about the cover band, and, for the most part, they were bad. They were very bad during nights 1 and 2. So I'm glad that, going into day 3, they were kind of mediocre at best, and, I would say they brought their A game for day 4. So yeah, even though I began with distaste for them, I've kind of grown attached to them a little bit. Who knows, we might hear about them again. Maybe at another convention. Not the Democratic convention. They've got a lot of licensed music that they're going to be using. And abusing. Pretty much abusing. Don't even get me started. Now, before Donald decided to take the stage, if you saw the audience for day 4, nobody was up in the second half, and even the very high points near the ceiling. You know where all the balloons are? Yeah, apparently there's another set of bleachers up there, along with, the VIP room and the balcony. But there was barely anybody there, at least until around 9:30, 10 p.m. The entire night, virtually had nobody up there. So I'm quite surprised that later on, it kind of got a bit jam-packed. I'd say it was at least 40 to 60% empty, which was kind of scary, because again, that was an ongoing issue regarding the way that the convention was handled. Because in campaigns 2000, 2004, 08, and 12, we never saw this kind of issue. We never saw a Republican convention where there were people just not present at any point. Maybe it's just because Donald. Maybe it's because nobody likes Donald right now. And, they've got all the right reasons not to show up until, I don't know, the acceptance speech. But, I'm at least glad that, Donald stayed safe. That's all that truly matters in the end. Again, nobody wanted to get hurt. We just don't want Republicans in office. Or in this case, a Democrat that is playing the Republicans for fools, but I'll get to that later. In other news, apparently this had actually happened while I would say this shrouded the convention more than anything else. Roger Ailes of Fox News, he ended up finally being out. Yeah, he was rendered as like the the main CEO or co-founder of Fox News back in 1996. And bear in mind, this is just like I'd say a little over a month and change, maybe about 2 months before Fox News officially turns 20. And that's kind of a shocker because, he was one of the reasons why we now have a strong conservative media on Fox. And now that I'm looking at things, this kind of makes me wonder where they'll take Fox News next. Are they going to move a bit more to the center or even to the left? I'd be surprised if that actually happens. That does not sound abnormal. I would actually appreciate if Fox were to become more moderate or more to the left, if only because of their politically incorrect or off-color shows. This includes The Simpsons, it includes Family Guy, it even includes, old classics such as Married with Children, as well, especially because of In Living Color. I'm one of those people that grew up with the old generation of Fox, the mid-generation of Fox, and the modern generation. Select shows have stuck around throughout that entire time, especially being in some regard the Tracy Ullman Show because of The Simpsons. But primarily The Simpsons is the only show, to my knowledge, that really has stuck around during Fox's lifespan, which I think it turns 30 next year, right? And I'm going to have to double check that. Nobody in the circuit board happens to know anything, so yeah, I guess we're kind of stuck here. But I know they're like 20-something years old at this point. If they're about to turn 30, I'd like to know. Because, I mean, Doc, because The Simpsons is going to turn 30 on April 19. So I'll definitely make sure to look more into that. But again, I feel that if Fox wants to continue having a good Fox News, I think they need to start moving more to the center or the left, if only to match up with their liberal cartoons and shows. It's the only logical way that I feel that things could go beyond this point, but whether or not that happens is entirely up to the folks at Fox. I don't know if Fox News has any major control with the main portion of Fox. I'd have to talk about that at a certain later point in time. Or who knows, maybe I might have an interview with the CEO of Fox just to discuss that. That won't happen for a long time. But, yeah, that's pretty much what I would love to see out of Fox News in future time. Just please, have more left-wing politics rather than right. I mean, heck, at least Megyn Kelly is more to the center. She's more of a moderate than a right-wing, which is something I feel that deserves to be more present. Hands down, without a doubt. Okay, this is just, I guess, based on some political analysis from CBS News. But apparently in the general election, right now, Donald's campaign has, I think, about 72% of support from basically the entire Republican Party as we view it. Of course, when we saw matters such as, the entire Bush family not showing up to the convention because, they kind of hate Donald's guts, especially Jeb. And also because, Ted Cruz basically said, hey, Duggan, I'm not going to endorse you. Yeah, I'll be truthful. Ted Cruz did make a good... He did a good job. He played his role right. Perfectly. He played his role perfectly. As we see it, because Donald pretty much only has, the white vote, this would mean that he would need at least 90% of Republican support. From the way that we look at it, because he has virtually no Afro-American support in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, and select other areas, I've got a pretty ducking good feeling that Donald will not be able to get that 90% support. So what he would have to look into is, he thinks he can get Bernie-crats, but Bernie-crats are voting for Bernie. That's a guarantee. They're voting for Bernie hands down, no matter what goes on. So it truly will come down to the 45% of independents that make up this country. 45% of people are independents in this country. That's a rather shocking surprise. I'll be truthful. I'm registered as a Democrat, but in my case, I was kind of registered as a Democrat against my own will. If only because I was not the one that officially did the paperwork, but that's another story for another time. But in my case, again, I vote for whoever I trust. And in this case, I also would still vote for Bernie, even in a general election. I'm not saying to Donald, suck it up, but there will come a point in time where some people will have to say to Donald to suck it up, because it's going to be a crazy time trying to get specific voting demographics that he would desperately need. That's at least how I view it, because he doesn't have the votes of women. He doesn't have the votes of the Afro-Americans. He doesn't have the votes of Hispanics and a good amount of other groups, including Muslims, maybe Amerasians here and there, but the rest is just pie in the sky, can you catch it kind of stuff. Balls in your field, can you catch it? But still, very highly unlikely at this time. So we'll have to wait till the debates on September 26th to really know anything regarding how his true support will become. Now, throughout this convention in the past week, third-party candidate research by voters has gone up on Google, on Bing, on Ask Jeeves. Yes, I still call it Ask Jeeves after all these years. On Yahoo and a whole bunch of other networks, or websites really, by over 1,000%. People want independence. They want Gary Johnson and former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld. They want Jill Stein. Think hardly on that. Think closely on that. Reading from my footnotes, as a result of this, I expect that Gary Johnson and Jill Stein will rise in the polls, but strictly if Bernie does not become the nominee in the event that we have a truly contested Democratic convention. At this point, we don't know how the superdelegates will vote. We don't know how the unpledged supers will vote. But from what it appears right now, I think it said like Hillary has 2,202 pledged delegates to her name. And I think it also said that, what did it say Bernie has? Load this up. I think it's around 1849 or something around that number. Oh, wait, no, sorry. No, Real Clear Politics is saying 2205 to 1846, but I think that was while California was still being tallied up. So yeah, I think it's actually 2202 to 1849. But again, that would still mean that Hillary would need super delegates. And again, that can all change up. We don't know how they'll vote. We don't know how anything will go down. So wishfully, if it is a contested convention, it's a contested convention, and we don't have to worry about having to think of Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. Or why not Bernie just go to the Green Party if he doesn't end up the nominee? That's the only other way I believe that we'll be able to continue the political revolution as we view it. It's either that or just get Gary Johnson and Jill Stein to both get 15% in the polls. I saw, again, in a Fox News poll, I could have sworn that I saw Gary Johnson at 15 and Jill Stein at 14. So it is becoming rather close. It's becoming rather close, but we'll see. We'll see how things go for the Hungry for Power games through August, through September, October, and then November. We do need these two in the debates for sure. In other news, because again, everything I'm mentioning right now, before we get to Baron Trump, everything is like literally pregame show crap. This is stuff that happened between 1 p.m. and 8, because nothing really happened for the 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Time slot. Oddly enough, unlike last night. So, in other news, apparently former Attorney General Eric Holder ended up getting appointed to Airbnb. Yes, Airbnb. The online website where you can go and, I guess, rent out your house to people for a specific premium. That is astounding. I would have never thought that we would have Eric Holder in Airbnb, but, I guess it kind of makes sense because his job is to handle matters regarding discrimination, so he's basically a part of their anti-discrimination force, which will help prevent bias on the allowance of somebody from being able to have an area for the night. So basically, this would mean suppose you're like let's just say like a random racist white guy down in Texas. I'm sorry that I have to use Texas, but it's one of those states where I know that there is a lot of right-wing bias. But all right, suppose you're a racist white guy from Texas, and you decide to have your house up on Airbnb for people to rent out. In comes a gay couple, a black guy with a male to female trans Asian. If the racist white guy in Texas decides to decline hospitality, then of course that would be rendered as discrimination, and somebody such as Eric Holder would be on the scene to assure that something such as this doesn't happen. At least that's how I view it. I mean, I know it's one of the utmost obscure of examples, but it gets the point across. Definitely does get the point across. So, best wishes to you, Eric Holder. Good man. Good man. Okay, now it's time for... Oh, right, I forgot. The speeches were crap. The speeches were all crap. At least up to the primetime special, nothing really happened for hours 8 to 9 p.m. and 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. I was watching BattleBots and Big Brother instead. Well, Big Brother 18. U.S. Yes, because Big Brother's aired all around the world, so I have to strictly say which season and which location. So, yes, Big Brother 18 U.S. But yeah, every single speech that I heard, there wasn't really any material that I could think of. So, yeah, I decided to just jump right to Ivanka Trump because she's really the only one that, we really had to wait for. But in the regard of Baron Trump, the youngest son out of the bunch, and I mentioned this earlier. So Baron Trump, he looked tired. He looked displeased with the whole thing. It's like, why am I even here? That's the kind of mentality that it looked as if Baron had. How old is Baron? He's like 10 or 12, right? Maybe a little older or younger than that. But still, I believe that, if you don't want to go to a convention, if you're going to be at a convention but your kid doesn't want to be there, don't drag your kid along. Get a babysitter or something. Seriously. I wonder how Baron felt. I truly wonder how Baron felt. I feel sorry for the kid. I truly do. This kind of stuff never happens elsewhere. I cannot say that enough. Cannot. Do not torture your kids. It's crazy. Crazy stuff. Now, I actually did have a mixed view about Ivanka Trump's speech. Some of it sounded believable. Some stuff just sounded so debatable I could not understand what the duck I was listening to. And bear in mind, similar to Donald, I have a balanced view. I cannot like her too much, nor can I hate her too much. I do not have a negative distaste or a negative liking or a strong liking. You get what I mean. I've got a neutral view of Ivanka. Either way, she is the utmost trustworthy or wise of the daughters, if I had to say. Not that that's a bad thing. It's never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing to be the utmost trusted in your family unless you decide to abuse it for all the wrong reasons. But when she was primarily talking about business, it just felt a bit out of place. When she got to the second half of her speech, because she was talking about things that were kind of more Democratic Party-esque, especially regarding the woman's role in work. Her views on paid family and medical leave, as well as wage equality. Because, she's a mother of, 3 kids herself. The way she was talking about these things, it sounded as if I was at a Bernie Sanders rally. And I mean that in the utmost positive of ways. If Ivanka believes that we need to deliver more paid family and medical leave for both genders, regardless of which gender you are, and also to assure that women do not make 79 cents on the dollar as opposed to the unfactual 83 cents that she said, I do believe that would help boost our economy far better than we have already seen it up to now. So yes, get rid of wage inequality. Give us paid family and medical leave, at least 3 months. Some countries I think have 6 or even a full year. And also alongside that, which I'm surprised they did not mention, raise the mother-ducking minimum wage, $15 an hour. And as I said earlier in this commentary series, if the minimum wage kept going up since 1981. Then based on inflation and productivity, it would have been $26 an hour. Keeping it capped at $7.25 since the Reagan years has made it a peasant wage. We are through with having peasants. You deserve to work for the amount of money that you are worth, and in this case, I'd say the American people are far more worth than what they have ever been in modern history. So yes, I do believe that the minimum wage must go up, and it must skyrocket. No two ways about that. If that can't happen, then no, we cannot have a Trump presidency. But if I had to say, I'd say that her speech, more than Donald's, sounded more presidential. It's as if Ivanka's the one on the ticket, not Donald. And that's kind of a scary thought. Imagine Ivanka Trump running for president. It'd be scary for the Republican Party because I think she has more progressive values than anything else. I'd have to double check into that, obviously. I would do some fact checking, but don't take my word on anything unless if I can officially confirm it. But still, dare I ask if she is truly still a Democrat, as is possibly Eric, Tiffany, even Donald Trump II? Because I think that the kids are far more liberated and far more to the left than Donald could ever potentially be as Republican Donald, with that lovely red tie. Yes, I know that the image of Donald on screen is from 1986. I don't care. I love 1980s Donald. He's better than anything that came out of the modern era. Why did you dye your hair orange? Please explain that to me. But we'll get to that at a better point in time. Unfortunately, this is the final episode of the commentary, but we'll get to it at a better point in time. I don't know why Donald decided to dye his hair orange. Maybe he just found it enjoyable. Now, I'll be truthful. If I decide to review Donald's speech in full, I'm going to be here for a ducking hour. No, I'm going to be here for days, and I don't have a lot of time. I'm not going to be there for a ducking hour and change. So, this was the original footnote in full, but I don't know. I don't know. I kind of might have to question some things. Because the way that this is, here's how it all came out. Donald John Trump, a master con man who has played the entire Republican Party for fools. Never have I viewed this ultimate form of deception done better by anybody in the modern history of politics. I will not talk much about the 74-minute speech that Donald had delivered. This was something that I wanted to have to... This was not something that I wanted to have to talk about much, but in reality, his speech was literally similar to what could basically be an extended version of one of his 45-minute rallies. Yet it has presented to us that Donald's words were not at all accurate. According to the utmost recent poll about his speech, literally right after it was all over, it was rendered that only 5 of his statements that were completely true, only 3% of everything that he had discussed tonight, was totally accurate to the core. That is a monstrosity, and it truly makes me question why the Republican Party would become ever so brainwashed and dumbfounded to the point where a former Democrat and Reform Party member would use his business manipulation skills to commit what could be debatably the utmost iconic of cons in North American history. That being the eradication of the original Republican Party as we know it to this date. I have no better way of saying that. Sorry. Jeez, my eye is stinging. This is the one instance where I don't want this to happen. I am horribly sorry. All right, let me see what I was saying. Let's see. Jeez. I'm so happy I'm not editing this so that you can understand how difficult this happens to be for me. Jeez. This might just be because I have to wear glasses. When I didn't have to wear glasses, this would never happen. Never. It's like I have to... You know what? Let me see if I can... Nah, nope. I can't read that without the glasses. I'm horribly sorry, audience. This is not how I wanted to spend the night. Having to rub my eye from stinging. This is the worst. Where was I? Ah, yes. I have no better way of saying that all has been lost for the Republican Party, which is why I am glad that Ted Cruz and select others, especially the Bush family, wanted nothing to do with Donald this time around. They did not want to view the total decimation of the party, and from this outcome, we will be viewing an entirely new Republican Party in the event that Donald actually does lose in the general election. Things could only go north for any remaining and surviving Republicans that were not gashed by his actions this campaign season. He will be all on his own if November 8 and 9 turn out better for the other four major political party slots. This includes Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, and Green Rainbow alike. Let's view where the show goes from here. Now, I actually wanted to go back on the matter of, we don't know if he's actually conning anybody. I can't really say much on that. But if he truly is playing the Republican Party for fools, he's doing a pretty darking good job at it. Because, I'm sure that not even the Republicans, I'm sure that if Republicans believe everything that he's saying, we don't know if they'll be able to believe him after, if he decides to not prove his worth. Technically, he's already proved his worth, but he could just stab everybody in the back when you least expect it. That's what I expect if he were to actually become elected. And in reality, if this is all just according to Jeb's conspiracy theory to have Hillary elected into office, but if Donald were to get elected instead in a shocking twist of fate, I'm sure that Donald would not want to truly take the job. That's the difference. That's the outcome that I feel in which he would stab everybody in the back. So it would basically be the presidency of Mike Pence and Paul Ryan, because Paul Ryan would basically be promoted in that regard. It makes sense. It makes sense. It's all a casino game. It's all a casino game in its greatest form. Who would have thought we would be talking about this? Okay, back to Donald's statements. Now, now this is the poll that basically, through fact-checking, here's what we got. So, as I said, only 5 statements, 3% were true. In the regard of mostly true, but some of it was fabricated to make it sound better. 14 statements, or 8%. Here's when the lying truly begins. 26 statements, 14%, were half true. For things that were mostly false, 30 statements, 16%. Completely false, 40%, 74 statements. And you can tell his pants are on fire when he made up matters on 34 separate statements, 19%. When you add that up, that means that for the majority of stuff, 97% of what he said had lies in it. In terms of things that were half true to pants on fire, that is 89%. How can a political party such as the Republican Party believe that they could have a candidate that has only made lies again and 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 again? This is not how the Republican Party deserves to be. Even I know that personally. Heck, I come from a place that grew up with liberals and moderates. But because of the Bush days, because of the Bush years, and also because I lived here in Massachusetts, all these years, with the Romney era and even the moderate Charlie Baker era, it is clear to me that I ended up growing up with Republican politics in some way, shape, or form, and also because of the fact that I technically grew up with Fox News every Sunday up to 2008. So you can see, I already know how the Republican Party works. You would think they'd be smarter than this, but again, we are talking about a party where they've had presidents just simply talking about fishing while discussing war matters, where they had Dick Cheney just shoot a guy in the booty. It was the booty, right? It wasn't in the face. I swear it was the butt. That's what I heard back in 2005 from my grandmother. So I've always assumed that Dick Cheney shot someone in the butt all these years. If anybody can state otherwise, heck, not even a circuit board behind me can say anything. So, oh, jeez. Priceless. But yeah, as we can view it, the Republican Party, as we know it, is dead. It's dead and it won't recover. The Trumpican Party has officially risen. This is an entirely different form of Republican. This isn't even Republican. I would say that this is basically the entire brain of Donald Trump in the form of a political movement that has turned into something that it's not meant to be. Whether or not it will succeed or decline all comes down to both the Democratic National Convention, it comes down to Bernie Sanders, it comes down to Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. It comes down to the remaining 5 candidates for president. This includes Donald. So, in exact order, the ones that I feel would have the best advantage against Donald would probably be in order of appearance: Bernie, Jill, Gary, Hillary. Bernie being at the top, Hillary being at the bottom. And the reason why I say this is because right now with Hillary, it can be a half and half. We don't know how it could turn out. Gary and Bill have a good chance against Donald. Jill Stein can she can wipe the floor with Donald any day. Bernie is Donald's worst nightmare. This is why I feel that this campaign season, whether we like it or not, will have to come down to third parties. I cannot stress that enough. We need to have Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, and Green Rainbow Party members all in the same room, duking it out with Donald. Why not make it like Marvel Ultimate Alliance? That is what it's called, right? I remember that from the movie Jumper, which was also a book. I need to get the video game for the Wii, actually, now that I think of it. That's probably available online. But yeah, in Ultimate Alliance, you basically had two notable people that they were basically enemies. They decided to join forces, but for a very temporary amount of time. But come the final showdown, all bets were off. That's the kind of showdown that I think we need right now. We need a scenario where basically the other 4 parties just decide to come and take down the Republicans as we view it. That's what we need, in full. And that actually, let's see, only 34 minutes and 10 seconds. We're done. Now we can go to late show coverage. And this involved the Late Daily Show, starring Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart? Perfect. I love Jon Stewart. I'll be truthful. This entire week, Stephen Colbert has turned CBS into Comedy Central. The only downside, though, is that, they can't do everything that they used to on Comedy Central. That's the one thing I don't like about broadcast network television, or network or broadcast television. I believe that broadcast television, just like regular standard television, like PBS, CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, UPN, which is now known as My Network TV 38, Boston's WB or the CW56, and even PAX TV, as well as Telemundo and Univision, and a whole bunch of Telefutura. Why not? I feel that all of these networks need to be as uncensored as possible. Heck, if I ever had to have any kind of conversation with like the head of the FCC, I would definitely find a way to have it be that we could have MA-17 rated content on television, but it wouldn't be in a way in which it would be rendered as controversial, because everything would primarily be After Dark. Speaking of After Dark, Poker After Dark needs to come back, but we'll get to that at a better point. So, mostly Jon Stewart's jokes were primarily about the firing, or at least or at least a stepping down of Roger Ailes from Fox News. He basically showed like a whole bunch of clips where they were basically attacking Barack Obama, but in reality they were really talking about Donald Trump, as well as a lot of lines that they said in a conversation or in an interview, and it was technically contradictory to what was they just said. Or basically, and even in some cases a double negative or a double positive, which was very, very odd. What I do appreciate that Jon Stewart did, however, and this was actually a topic that I am very happy to discuss, and this is the 9/11 First Responder Bill, also known as the James Zadroga Act, or something around that name. Now, as you know, the New York City Police Department, as well as its medics and firefighters, they haven't really gotten primarily true benefits to being first responders of the 9/11 attacks at the World Trade Center, in the Pentagon, and over in the Pennsylvania region. People that were on the scene, some were put into retirement from illnesses and a whole bunch of other matters that just came up, but as a result of what happened on 9/11. We have seen Republican after Republican, people who have basically been a part of the Blue Lives Matter campaigns, mind you, vote against this bill, both in the Senate and, I think, over 100 people in the House of Representatives. That is an insult. That is an insult. I'll be truthful. Even though I have been a bit on a half and half in the regard of the whole Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, All Lives Matter debate, even though, yes, I do feel that the life of any human matters, regardless of who you are. You can be as good or as dark as you want to be. But in the long run, if you're alive, technically you do matter. In some way, shape, and form. Unless if, a whole bunch of people hate your guts, but there's, that one person that still loves you. Yes, you still matter in some way, shape, and form. What I am surprised about is that Republicans that have said that Blue Lives or All Lives Matter would be against this bill, that they would be against the 9/11 First Responders bill. How dare you, Republican Party? How dare you say that Blue Lives Matter, yet you will not even deliver a bill that would deliver benefits either to cops, medics, and firefighters that have been subjected to the troubles caused from 9/11, or deliver it to the families as restitution for what had happened. Continuing to go against a bill such as this will only make it worse and worse for the people of this country, especially for first responders of future terrorist acts in the event that they were to happen. It boggles my mind as to why the Republican Party would want to do this to their own, if they truly did respect firefighters, medics, and police officers alike, then they would have passed this bill immediately. They would have done it right away. But there appears to be a whole bunch of people that we can't trust. There appears to be a whole bunch of people in legislature that we can't trust. And bear in mind, this is from the 2015. This is from the 2015 portion of the legislation, the 2014 to 16 season legislation, particularly the House of Representatives. This has indeed got to change, and wishfully that will happen. Wishfully this bill could get passed in a better form and expanded upon so that these first responders can get the true support that they need, whether it is medical or financial, so that the families are able to compensate for their losses, and a whole bunch of other things that could be put in between. It's an insult that this even has to be talked about more and more and more. And the fact that Jon Stewart had done so on CBS in a very uncensored form, I wholeheartedly appreciate that he did that. No two ways about it. No two ways about it. Jon Stewart is a good guy. You know, he's been following this topic since 2006, maybe a little earlier than that. I have to give him total universal acclaim for his movement, and wishfully this will continue for the better in future time. Can't really say that in a better way. But before we end this and discuss what to expect from the aftermath of this convention. So, you know, Bernie decided to watch the commencement speech, as we'll probably call it. Can we even call it commencement speech? Can we just call it the coronation of Donald Trump? So yeah, Bernie decided to watch the coronation of Donald Trump from his living room. He basically is asking, is this guy running for president or dictator? And now I'm reading this directly from Raw's story. So basically, here's what they say on Raw's story. The writer of this article is Sarah Burris, released at 11:13 Eastern Standard Time, p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on July 21. While GOP nominee Donald Trump took to the podium at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland, former Democratic president for... Well, no. He's not former Democratic candidate for president. He's still running. The campaign is not suspended. Let's just say independent/Democratic candidate for president, Senator Bernie Sanders, took to Twitter to bash Trump's every word. Sitting in what happened to be a normal American living room, clad in a blue-collared shirt, Sanders appeared to be tapping away on an iPad with Donald on the screen in front of him. The hashtag that was used for this was RNC with Bernie. He was just as distinguished by the statements as his supporters also were, and he let Twitter follow it. Or know about it. My apologies. So let me just read out all of these from front to back. We believe in bringing people together, not dividing them up. Trump is wrong. The real cause of instability in the Middle East was the Bush-Cheney invasion of Iraq. By the way, where is President Bush? Trump's big economic plans give trillions in tax breaks to millionaires, refuse to raise the federal minimum wage. Trump's economic plan, $3.2 trillion in tax breaks for millionaires, cut programs for low-income Americans. What a hypocrite! If Trump wants to fix trade, he can start by making his products in the U.S., not low-wage countries abroad. Fix trade. Stop manufacturing Trump shirts in Bangladesh at 30 cents an hour. Fix trade. Stop manufacturing Trump ties in China. Fix trade. Stop manufacturing Trump clothing in Mexico. Citizens United is one of the worst decisions in our history. Will Trump mention it, or is he too afraid of the Koch brothers? Still awaiting for a single word about covering the 28 million Americans without health insurance. I guess they don't matter much to Trump. Trump says, I alone can fix this. Is this guy running for president or dictator? Looks like Ted Cruz was right about one thing. Trump does not understand what the Constitution is about. Our movement understands that what we don't need is Trump's huge tax breaks for millionaires. Trump thinks climate change is a hoax. My supporters understand that we must move away from fossil fuels, not expand them. Will there be one word about student debt or making college affordable, or just concerned about more tax breaks for the rich? Trump's economic plan. Same old trickle-down economics. Pathetic. Trump's economic plan. Let states lower the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. Already a starvation wage. Trump's Supreme Court nominees would, like Justice Scalia, oppose a woman's right to vote, support Citizens United, and gut the Voting Rights Act. And an important line for Sanders supporters: those who voted for me will not support Trump, who has made bigotry and divisiveness the cornerstone of his campaign. Everything that Bernie said is correct. Everything he said is correct. That is exactly how this entire thing went down. And to be truthful, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Donald would basically talk about matters in the way that he had. I'm not surprised that Bernie would reply in the way that he had either. It is clear to me that if we were to have a true election season, it would be Bernie versus Donald. It would not be Hillary versus Donald. So I hope that the pledged delegates and the unpledged superdelegates do their job at the convention and vote for Bernie. He is who we need right now. Hillary will not properly do anything from what I have seen. From what I have seen and what I know. Her unfavorability amongst Democrats, Republicans, and Independents alike is also another notable issue in this case. I could not see two people with such strong unfavorability duking it out against each other. Bernie has, I'd say, about the same amount of favorability as the Obama 08 campaign, maybe better than that, actually. Either way, he's the only one of the three remaining main party candidates with a positive rating, that is in the plus. Donald and Hillary are in the negative. Jill Stein is technically in the positive, but not a lot of people know much about her to really give a review. Same thing goes for Gary Johnson, even though he was on The Late Show and he had some coverage here and there online and on Comedy Central, I think. Either way, it's all going to come down to the other three of the five remaining. Donald and Hillary pretty much mean nothing right now, so it will all come down to Bernie, to Jill, to Gary. Let's hope that this nation makes the right choice and decides to vote for the right people for this country. I don't view any other way that this could be handled right now. And with that said, that is the end of the aftermath of the Republican National Convention for this year, for the 2016 campaign season. This was something. This was indeed very fun. To be truthful, in the regard of the true aftermath, I wouldn't be surprised if there's protests and riots, or even direct attacks on Donald himself. Because Donald has basically put a massive target on his back, and people are ready to fire the arrow. Whether or not things will be safe for him, we don't know. But from how we view it, he is now public enemy number one on the political scale, on the political forefront. And I know that the Democrats, the Independents, Libertarians, and Green Rainbow Party alike will all go after him. I can tell. There's no two ways about it. No two ways at all about it. And poor Mike Pence. I feel so horrible that he has to go through this with Donald. He does not deserve to have to be treated badly just because he's supporting Donald. He's already got enough blood on his hands from the stuff he did in the late 80s and early 90s. So I hope that's more than enough. I hope that's more than enough. But either way, the Democratic convention is next. So we're gonna be preparing over the weekend for this. But as for anything else, we'll have to wait until the debate on September 26th to really view a good outcome or a major outcome from what could happen. So again, wishfully Jill gets on the debates, wishfully Gary gets into debates, and who knows? If Bernie doesn't become the nominee on the Democratic side, again, Jill Stein directly said that she would be more than willing to step aside and have Bernie be the main portion of the ticket. I would expect Jill would probably be the VP in that case, the VP pick. But, if that were to happen, that would be extremely astounding. Imagine if Bernie decided to continue running on the Green Party. He'd get into the debates right away. Oh, that would be priceless. That would be priceless, but perfect. That would be exactly what we need. Because we have to get ready for the biggest political war that we have ever seen in modern-day history. But we won't know what will truly go down until the end of the Democratic Convention. Then I might actually truly say get ready for war. But for now, let's just play it safe. Let's just see how the Democratic Convention goes. If things do not go the way that we expect, then get ready for a showdown. Get ready for a real showdown where real matters will be affecting everybody. And that's pretty much all I can say for now. But we'll get more onto this once we get into the Democratic Convention and onwards. Until then, I am Roya Rockwood. I will be off for the entire weekend. If you try to catch me, no, I'm just going to be preparing for Royans at the 2016 Democratic National Convention. If I am unfortunately unable to have my media panel, then it will be Roya Rockwood at the 2016 Democratic National Convention. I already have the wallpapers ready just in case. So we'll see what happens. Other than that, though, you folks take care. Thank you for watching. And I think that's it. Yeah, if you want to get any of the wallpapers from any of these episodes, whether it be from like the anticipations and predictions video, or day 1 and 2, or the day 3 and 4 wallpapers, you can get them down in the description. They're available via DeviantArt. So yeah, feel free to download them, share them around, or even have them as your own computer wallpaper for what it's worth. Either way, I'm out. So again, thank you for watching. I'll see you again on Sunday. Take care.